On the difference between being in the world and living in it. Being in the world is just taking up space on the surface of the world, on its shell, like inanimate objects. However, living in the world is making sense of existence by feeling every moment. Being in the world is accepting that the body has been thrown into it. Living is the soul witnessing itself to the world through existence. Being in the world is breathing and preserving vitality, but living in the world is filling that breath with meaning and making every moment valuable. Being in the world is just being a spectator. Living is taking a role on the stage of life and playing that role enthusiastically. Those in the world watch the passage of time. Those who live fill each moment with enthusiasm. Being in the world is a superficial touch to the world. Living is integrating with the world and accumulating stories in it. Being in the world is being like the shadow of objects. Living is confronting the reality that is the source of those shadows. Being in the world is squeezed between the past and the future. Living makes every moment immortal. Those in the world talk about time passing quickly. Those who live in it writhe in pain under the touch of the heavy hand of time. There is a distinction between mere existence and the art of truly living that is almost incomprehensible. Being in the world is a state of passivity, of inactivity. It is a state shared by all beings and has no privilege. Trees swaying in the wind, animals wandering, rocks and silently flowing rivers are everywhere. They are in the world, distant from the texture of existence, but do not exist. Heidegger called this Dasein, or being there. We cannot exist like seeds scattered on the ground. We think we are called to life. The human soul is activated not only by what is, but also by what can be and by possibility. Jean-Paul Sartre states that being is unique to humans by saying, man is not only in the world, but also the only being who is conscious of being in the world. This consciousness burdens humans with the weight of both freedom and responsibility. Being in the world is subject to the rhythms of nature, breathing, sleeping, rising and falling like the tides. But to live in the world is to question these rhythms, challenge them, and imagine a life beyond mere survival. People who are privileged in terms of consciousness of life are responsible for this gift of awareness. They see beyond the moment. They can dream and despair in equal measure. A lion hunts because he must, but man creates stories around every action he makes. A bird migrates to distant places, but man maps the stars and searches for meaning in the constellations for the possibility of new life forms on different planets. He is curious about the present state of other life forms that have lived on Earth and their evolutionary journey. To live and interpret is to transform the raw materials of existence into something transcendent, days into meaning, and actions into purpose. A tree grows but does not know why it reaches towards the sky. A river flows but does not know where it goes. But a person wonders where the end of the road will be after a long walk on Earth. Only humans struggle with these questions, trying to uncover the direction and mystery of life. For all other beings, time exists. It is an infinite whole of moments that cannot be counted or measured. But for humans, time is a river that carries them towards eternity. Although the past often creates feelings of regret, and the future beckons with new hopes, only humans are aware of the inevitable end, aware of their mortality. This awareness turns life into an experience, an adventure, a series of choices. Just being in the world is being content with what life brings, but living shapes the lines of that life, rising above animal instincts, transcending the mere being there of existence. Humans are creatures of thought and longing. They become conscious of being human in this longing. For beings other than humans, the world is a vast arena of stimuli and reactions. They react, they move, but they do not think about the meaning of their actions. They exist in cyclical patterns. Their existence is governed by the law of nature, unaffected by the complex web of thoughts and emotions that entangles the human soul. Their existence is free from existential anxiety and the torture of self-awareness. Only humans are both blessed and humiliated by the power of choice. Humans are the only beings who can live contrary to nature, challenge their instincts, and find their place in the cosmos strange. As Arendt said, to live is to be human, is to act humanly. Humans develop beliefs and ideologies not only in the physical sense, but also in the metaphysical sense. Only humans do not want to be whatever they are. They not only pass through time, they also leave indelible marks on it. Living is an art, a delicate oscillation between reason and emotion, the physical and spiritual worlds. To live is to confront the mystery of the unknown, to discover the limits of what it means to be human. Being in the world is a passive act, but living requires the active participation of the soul. All living beings have the will to continue their species, as if by a cosmic will or the universe's algorithm. However, Only humans have the privilege of striving for the continuation of their species, while simultaneously including romanticism in the process. Therefore, being in the world is drifting on the surface of existence. Living is diving into its depths, discovering what it means to be human in all its pain and glory in a short life. Being in a world without meaning is like trying to leave a random mark on a blank page. However, being human means filling those blank pages with poems, art, literature, and philosophy. Camus reminds us of this existential void by saying, "Life has no meaning, but man is obliged to give it meaning." Sartre says, "Life consists of the meaning we give it." It is not only the meaning we give it, but also the meaning that makes life worthy of wonder. If a person does not add a purpose to life, he becomes no different than a leaf drifting in the wind. For a person, meaninglessness is the heaviest burden of existence because man is the only creature that feels the pain of living in a deep void without knowing why he is here. In contrast, living life to the full represents a state that Heidegger calls the authentic appropriation of being. This means seeing every moment of life as a gift and consuming it consciously. Nietzsche's statement, "Life is an art that must be lived," clearly reveals this difference. A meaningless being saves the day. A person who lives fully immortalizes the moment. While meaninglessness makes a person stagnant, living fully is an enthusiasm and an artistic walk. Man's most significant victory over existence is adding meaning to the emptiness of life. Being in the world is an indisputable fact of birth. A person finds himself inside bodies that transcend the play of light and shadow, as if he were thrown onto the earth. Nevertheless, through the depth of his experience and the texture of his thoughts and feelings, he finds himself in the reality of being beyond being in the world. Albert Camus says that despite his endlessly painful life, Sisyphus should be imagined as happy in his struggle to exist. According to him, if someone who wakes up with the dawn can find a reason to live, even this reason alone is enough to fill a person's heart. Being aware of the absurdity in the world, enduring the pain of the world, being in the world, trying to progress by defying all its meaninglessness. Even if life does not have meaning for him, attributing meaning to it is the best way to overcome this absurdity. Camus says that the way to escape from the meaningless routines of human consciousness, from the boredom of Nietzsche's repetitions, is to flow towards a meaningful immersion. The difference between being and being is neither magnificent nor external. It is an internal choice. Only if one carries a compassionate May warmth within oneself can one resist all this absurdity in the freezing winter desert. Only with deep understanding can one understand the boundary between occupying the world and truly living it. Living in the world requires engaging with chaos. In a universe where nothing is guaranteed, uncertainty leaves an indelible mark, and the drive to create value sustains man. Being in the world may provide a glimpse into the edge of this vast potential, but to truly live is to embrace a possibility shaped by will and wonder. T.S. Eliot wrote, "We shall not cease to discover, and the end of all our discoveries will be to arrive where we began and know the place for the first time." These lines illustrate that repeatedly occupying the same physical space does not mean understanding it. Real life points to a transformative process. Man returns between experiences but is enriched by introspection and an awakened sense of belonging. Montaigne said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." To be in the world is to borrow identity from external demands, a degrading condition. To belong to oneself alone means that man is on his path in the long earthly walk. Even in chaos, he can give meaning to life through his capacity to perceive meaning. In so doing, he reshapes himself into the fabric of life every day. In this shaping, the most excellent helper of man is a heart full of love. Living the world with love can be achieved by adopting an encompassing language that transcends superficial interactions. When a person leaves the world smiling like a stranger's sarcastic smile at the endless chaos of the world in old age, it is a form of revenge on this world that is rebuilt and disintegrated every day. Sometimes life becomes an unbearable burden when a person touches it. It is essential to know that real life is possible by resonating with the world's wonders and coping with its troubles. A person cannot escape the risk of missing its symphony only if the world is present. The difference between being in the world and living in the world is as much as the measure of participation in the world's life. Man is a dynamic and unfinished being by nature. Just being in it is absurd and meaningless, like a movie scene with no actor or role, only a background that grazes the ears. Indeed, living involves continuing a conversation intertwined with existence, being willing to change, and even wanting to change the world with others.